Welcome to episode 10, one quick Barra swap. Now in this episode, we're going to try and complete the underneath of the vehicle with what I have here. Righto, so the car's getting agonisingly close to being finished and ready to drive. Now this is a frustrating part of the build, but we'll just chip away and I'll try and shorten a few of these segments up the best I can, but just showing you guys how we did it. So down here, I whipped out to the warehouse, Wilwood Universal Handbrake cable kit. Now you've seen me fit them to other vehicles, so I'm going to bang that on, made it up to what's already there at the front half of the car, and the camera will quickly run over at the end and show you what I've done with that. Sway bars, the guys from Signature Sway Bars worked with Maddie and myself and a few rough measurements, and they've designed us up a sway bar to fit with the Barra up front, and the rear one there is an XC sway bar, so that should bolt straight on. So I'll bang them in, show you guys how they look at the end there, and they will be available for purchase through the rod shop. Transmission, we need to put a trans cooler on. Now I've just found one in our goods department, which is a second-hand one, or where I've ordered something and it miscued for another job. So trans cooler, buy one off the shelf, doesn't really matter in my opinion. Slap it underneath, up the front, as long as it gets airflow, it should work. Sorry, Paul Rogers, if that's not correct, but that's what I'm going to do. A couple little wiring things we've got to plug in underneath, and then I'm going to try and make the shifter up. Hopefully, and also plumb the rear brake. So we'll do as much as we can, as quick as we can, least amount of footage, but you guys should still enjoy. Alright, so in front of me here is both sway bars, as we can see. The rear one with that nice big sweep around it, that is just an XC Falcon rear sway bar. So we went for that, good clearance. I'll bang that on, show you what it looks like. And they're a newly designed Barra into XF sway bar. So I'll put them both on, let's see how they look. Righto, so my rusty XC Falcon sway bar can go back up in the old XC up in the backyard, so that's out. Now above me here, the replacement one fits awesome, looks good, so that was easy. The links, as we can see up in here, if the cameraman swings up the top where it mounts, they come as part of the kit here, so that mounting block there, which all mounts to the factory location for the diff and everything to come off. The pins will be supplied. The sway bar there, I'm sure the guys in sales will be able to sort it out, but they will be available. If not, get your own XC Falcon one for that. Now, if we come to the front, this is the bit that impresses me the most. So when we do all the R&D, we normally go through the CAD drawing, all the stuff, the round and round, the merry-go-round, but the guys at Signature Sway Bars were that easy to deal with. They supply us sway bars for a lot of other makes and models. We just give them the setup here, the factory one, which they had on file, explained to them how we had to clear the sump at the front, narrow it down a little bit. They took over the phone measurements for these guys. They've done it, and first hit looks amazing. So the cameraman comes up in and around. I'll throw the camera there. So if we follow my finger here, it's factory all the way through from this datum point here, and it changes here at this bend here. So all they've had to do is run the 45 in, shorten it up and back across. Now, like I said, that's all been done over the phone. Half a dozen phone calls. The guys at Signature, awesome. Put the factory one up in there. Nothing's our issue. It's going to hit straight the sump. So we've only altered the center section. So they will be available, that sway bar. It'll be online. Now we know it fits. The guys have got on file. We'll get a pile of them down. They'll be available probably in the next week or two. You better buy them through our website. So look out for that. Right, so the sway bars are on. That's one thing ticked off. I'm going to jump on to the next item. Righto, so now we're on to the handbrake. So to finish that off, we're going to use the Wilwood Universal Handbrake kit. Now what I'll do is I'll fit it to the car. You've seen me do it on other cars before, so I won't bore you to death, but at the end, I'll show you the path they're on the cables and the tricks along the way. Righto, so I've run it in, it worked really well. I've adjusted it and we've wound it out. Now you know that obviously on the handbrake end of it, you've got to wind the drums out to get it to expand to set the handbrake. Works really well. So what I've done is here, retained the factory front half of the handbrake. Now where we've joined it up is on the adjuster, so the original adjuster. Now with the Wilwood one there, that gold block is threaded. Now the thread was different to the Falcon adjustment thread. So all I did, 8mm drill bit, drilled it out, and all it was just take a skimp out, adjust the thread out of there, slid it down, and we retain the two adjusting nuts. So we can still fully adjust that to suit there now, as we can see. We followed the path back down the driver's side to stay away from the pipes the best we could. And we've just swung it straight up onto the driver's side, passenger side, looped it up over the diff as best we can, and then just connected it as per instructions on each end. Just make sure when you do run it, just sweep your bends. As long as you sweep your bends, it's fine. It does not matter if one cable is longer than the other, because when you pull at this end the same amount as you pull at the front, we'll pull at the rear. So sweep the bends, drill that out, slide it over the original adjuster, happy days. So I brought the car down off the hoist and moved it forward because their local auto, like Chris, has just showed up now. He's going to work out how to make the Barra into the XF with the air conditioning there. He's going to have to mix and match a few pipes. So I'm going to let him go up the front. Now while he's doing that, to keep things ticking over, I'm going to mount the battery. So the first thing is I ran the guys at R&J Batteries here. Got myself a battery box, which you need to have a sealed unit. So the battery box is set there. I explained to them, being the experts, that it's a turbo Barra XF. Wanted to put it in the boot, give me a little bit extra cranking power, which they've given me a lot more, which I'm happy with. So I've got 825 cold cranking amps. So we've got mountains for that engine. So that, and also the local Ashdown Ingram's auto elect supplier. I've got myself some double O BNS cable, so it's fairly heavy. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the cable internally down the passenger side. So I'll mount the battery on the passenger side, through the floor, and the starter motor's on the passenger side. It'll be the easiest path to take. I'll run an earth strap here, and a really heavy earth strap as well from the engine block to the chassis rail, which is very important to help it crank over. So I'll run all that around, get it all set, and I'll show you how it comes up. Alright, so I ran the cable through the boot, found an opening under the rear seat, just doing the scuff plates back up there now, run up through the kick panel. I'll find myself hopefully a rubber grommet or a hole I can share, cable out as close as we can to the starter motor. So that through there, we're nearly done. Righto, so the battery cable is ran down around the kick panel. I'll put a hole in the lower firewall, rubber grommet, and it just lumps out right next to the starter motor. So once we get it back on the hoist and up in the air, I'll crimp a lug on there and we'll be able to fit it up. So that's that part done. Now, while the boys are still playing with the aircon out the front, doors are wide open, might as well keep ticking some boxes, keep the wire moving. So we swing the camera up, we'll see I've screwed the fuse box and the relays inside the glove box there. So all I've used is a couple of self-tappers into the plastic there. It goes in really easy. What I have done to get to it, I've just cut the back out of the glove box. Now, still going to look factory from the front. We don't need a logbook in there. What do we need a glove box for at the end of the day? So I've cut that out. It'll still look factory. It's going to work well. So that's that. In on the fuse panel, Jake's wiring loom he's made for us. We'll make for you guys the same thing. Plugs there. All we need to do is marry the three plugs here together, which that's that part sorted out. We have our tacho plug, which is labelled really well. You just read the label, which I'll run that down here. So that there we've got here tacho interface, so I'll glue that in the glove box there somehow shortly. Diagnostic plug, which is labelled there. Like I said, everything's labelled. We'll run that round, we'll put that into the kick panel, so it'll be really easy for guys to get to when we have issues. If we have issues, that's that part sorted. And then we've got our coils cable here, 2 thermo fans, and I believe we have a fuel pump. So I'm going to run them through the same grommet as the battery cable, out in the engine bay, thermos to there, fuel pump over to the original relay, which we'll keep, and that'll switch on and off the fuel pump. So that's that bit, and then we'll get on to, last but not least, the technical part, which here you see the few different wires there. They're ones that have got to pick up original feed, so we'll get into that shortly. So let me plug this, zip it up, get the glove box back together, and then we'll get on to the technical stuff. Righto, so Chris McHenry, our local auto elect, is doing the air conditioning. He's had to shoot off and order some parts. So quick rundown of where he's at. If we look down here, we've mentioned to use original and new stuff. So the original stuff we're using, we have set there, and we've rebent it. So we've rejigged a couple of our pipes to reshape them so they can head down, because the compressor's in different location, they're running in different spots. So that's done there. Now Chris has got us to cut the ferrules off of the old hoses, remove that and just keep the original fitting, so he'll crimp new ferrules on, put new hoses on. Around the front here we can see the boys in the machine shop and welded some aluminium angle on either side of the radiator, bolted the condenser up, and we're ready to go. So he's ducked off, going to get me some hose, going to get some other fittings. When he gets back, we'll show you guys how he makes the hose, what it looks like, back it down. It shouldn't be far from gassing. Alright, so the Autolex left, he's going to make some new pipes for us, or mix and match the two pipes, which I'll run you through once he's done. Now I'm going to get back under the car and try and finish off a few more jobs one step closer. So transmission oil cooler, I'll find somewhere safe to mount that. We'll plumb that into the trans, put a couple of fittings on there. Also, I'm going to sort the shifter out. So like I said, I want to keep the factory T-bar inside the car, but I want to mate it up down to the new Turbo 350. So I'm going to get a bit of that done and I'll show you how it comes up. So as you can see, I've mounted the trans cooler up underneath here. Now I've left a big enough gap so the air will flow. Both sides of it should cool the oil quite well. I've got myself some hose here and just a couple of straight fittings there. So I'm going to glue up the threads on them fittings, put them inside the trans, find a nice safe path for the lines up, push them in, couple of hose clamps, and we're ready to put oil in. So that'll be the trans over and done with. Now, while I'm under here, I've also connected up the factory shifter. So factory shifter linkage is still here. I've made my own bracket and a bit of a bar set up to the front here. Now I've got the button taped on the T-bar, so the safety button that locks it, just so I can check how it's shifting gears and how it's clicking through. Now we've gone all the way through there. I've had a mat up in the car there to double check that all the gears are lining up with itself, so it's all in sync, so it should be all quite good. Now you guys, if you want to keep the factory T-bar, you're going to have to make something like that, make it yourself, get someone to give you a hand to make it. We'll see how it goes. Now, it's probably not going to be ideal for a bit of drag racing or whatever you want to do with the car. Now, if you do want to go down that avenue, you're going to have to go to a B&M shifter or an Outlaw or something like that. Get their shift to be a lot easier to race with, but at the end of the day, it's Heath driving it, not me, so he can put up with that. Right, so the underneath the vehicle's pretty well sorted. I've got it back down on the ground. Now, away from the camera, we've bled the brakes. They're all really good. That part's all sorted. Now down here, if we have a look, the Autolec has been back and he's fitted all the pipe work up. So what we've done here is you use some factory parts, which is at the front half here. And then we've had to mate the Barra pipe work down the bottom. So the boys have used a few of the original fittings. Then he has made some pipes to join them. So pretty much my bit of advice is, one, get a registered aircon man in. Secondly, keep as much as you can off your Falcon and off your Barra, hand it to the expert and he'll mix and match and make it all work. So that's that bit done. Now what I've done on the other side of the vehicle, I've got the sheet metal guys, so I'll sneak around and swap sides with the camera, and maybe an airbox. So we've sealed the airbox in, we've made a nice little bit of 3-inch pipe up there, and it'll come into the setup of the turbo. So we want to close the bonnet, we want it to be done right. And if we pop in behind the headlight here, you'll see the filter should suck in some nice cold air up the front. So hopefully that'll work really well. Now I'm at the stage with that kind of setup, I need a few more bends. So Motorsport Connections, I buy all my bends and my clamps and everything off. So I'll ring them guys this afternoon. So next episode, I'll be able to finish all the pipe work off. What we've also done is we've roughed in the computer, which is sat up the top there. On this side here, we've wired in what we needed to wire back in. So we've joined the old wiring and the new wiring. It does need to be cleaned up. I can see that, but it's all come along nice. So what I'm going to do is we're ready. We've cranked it over, we've primed up, we've made sure we've got oil up to the turbo so that's safe to fire up. I've filled up the water system, hooked up the hoses. It's all basic stuff you guys can do. Just nut it out yourself, get a bit of advice if you're not sure. So I'm going to fire it up. Let's see what happens. Now, it started up, which is a good thing, but that's running really rough. So I believe I'll probably go check my vacuum. I'd say I've got a couple of vacuum leaks. Also, a couple of them coil packs look a little bit B grade, so I might keep an eye on check out the spark side of things. So look, I'm going to wrap it up this episode. It's running. Next episode, we're going to have this thing on the road. We're going to brake test it. We've got a heap coming your way. So like, subscribe below. See you again soon.